This is Jake, filling in for Hope, who is a little under the weather. And I am sitting with Anne Blackwell Thompson of Blackwell Botanicals, one of the featured artists for Art in the Shop 3. On behalf of Jim McKenna and Village Exxon, we welcome you and your work to our one-of-a-kind art gallery, where the lifts hold art instead of cars. Anne comes from a background in historical decorative painting, which gave her the foundation to work on botanicals, a medium which requires patience and skill. So Anne, why don't we begin with the process of pressing botanicals?
Thank you so much for having me, Jake and Hope. I'm thrilled to be interviewed. Well, let's see. To start with, I basically press two different mediums. I press flowers, leaves, and foliage, and I also press seaweed. And they're two complete different beasts. The botanicals, with the foliage and the flowers, you do have to be quite patient. I usually harvest March through November when things are in bloom, and as soon as I cut and harvest, I have to dissect and put the pieces in the presses. And then it's kind of like forgotten cookies. I have to leave it alone from anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 or 4 months. And slowly but surely over time, they will dry, and I will change out the blotting paper every couple weeks as well. With the seaweed, that's kind of like birthing a newborn. I usually dive for my seaweed and harvest the seaweed in the South Carolina region. And once I collect it, I have to rinse it off and immediately start drying it. And I have to change out the blotting paper every 6 hours. So you even have to set the alarm, just like you would be feeding a baby. And that will last for anywhere from 5 to 7 days. So everything has to be off your calendar at that point. So they're really two different beasts, but my seaweed harvesting takes place anywhere from November to March, because that's when the red seaweed comes in. Some of the more unusual currents will bring in the different colors. So there's really something to harvest all year round, and that's what I love. As soon as I work very hard on my hydrangeas, then the hydrangea season's gone and I have to move on to the next group of flowers. So there's never a dull moment.
Thank you for that description. You're very dedicated to your craft.
Thank you.
Let me read something Hope wrote May of last year about your art. Poet Sonia Sanchez, during a college lecture on the art of haiku, spoke of finding oneself in a poem. It is something to find yourself in a poem. The same can be said of Anne's botanicals. What you see in each composition is something uniquely special to someone. A rare plant passed down generation to generation, rose petals from a wedding bouquet, the lilac bush that was planted the day the newborn was brought home, or a piece of the fern that hung for years on the front porch. Each herbarium tells a story." End quote. People come to you and ask that you preserve a little piece of history or to create a unique gift with a plant or flower. When you are asked to do this, to interpret a memory for someone, how do you approach the piece?
Well, actually, those are some of my favorite commissions, and I do quite a number of custom commissions where I'm contacted by a client, and those are just so incredibly heartwarming. This past Christmas, a client here in Richmond wanted me to harvest some hydrangeas that were right outside her mother's door, and it was just, the mother will probably be downsizing in the next couple of years, and there are 3 daughters, and she said that was her mother's favorite plant, and it will be so hard for the mom to leave that house. And so that was just so heartwarming. In fact, Christmas morning when it was being presented to her and we were opening up our presents, I kept on thinking about her, hoping that she was touched. I think people do make emotional connections to plants and flowers and just experiences. Even seaweed. I mean, if you Google beach and seaweed, it's kind of funny. Sometimes you can see pictures of the kids with that green squishy seaweed on their head, and they throw it at each other, and they wear it like a hat with it hanging down. So I think people make connections with the experiences And also with smells, with the lilac bush outside the window, it's that smell that you associate with a happy place and a happy time. So those have been very memorable.
You also create from your own harvestings. When you are out in your Wellingtons, are you looking for something specific, or do you let the harvest unfold organically?
Well, I guess a little bit of both. Sometimes I'll go out looking for something specific, but you never know. You never know if the bugs have gotten on the wisteria, and you have your heart set on that. But when you look at it that day, it's not looking as happy as you want it to be, and you can find something else. Some of my favorite pieces are just wildflowers that I've come across, and of course presents a different challenge, because then I don't know what I have. I have to try and then do a lot of research, and there's certainly a big learning curve with that to try and identify some of the wildflowers. I have a number of sources that I can take the pieces to. Lewis Skinner has been fabulous about that. I work out there every Wednesday morning. I volunteer, and I'm constantly going to the horticulturalists and saying, what do I have? As well as I've been known to drive up to the greenhouse 2 on Patterson and walk in and say, oh, can you help me? What is this? So sometimes I have my heart set on going out and finding something, but it's also the unexpected that comes up that seems to be a hit at times.
This art exhibit is a charity event to benefit the Wounded Warrior Project. The WWP helps our injured veterans receive further assistance than what the Veterans Administration provides. Do you have veterans in your family, or know of a veteran?
Well, I did some research, and I'm so impressed with the Wounded Warrior Project. I love their vision and their purpose and their core values, and it's a wonderful organization. So I am just completely honored to be associated with it in any way possible. My father went to VMI, and he was in the National Guard, and he actually was a veteran. And our next door neighbor, who's older, who's like a grandfather to my son, and probably my son's best friend, was in Vietnam. And so it's really heartwarming to hear some of his stories and his sacrifices, truly.
What do you think they would have to say about this garage art gallery fundraiser?
I think they would love it. I think it's so innovative. I think it's cutting edge. It is so much fun for me to tell people that my art is going to be hanging in an Exxon. I mean, it is to be in the bins. I think it is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I think it makes it so accessible. It's not intimidating. Art looks beautiful in museums, but I think this is just spot on with uniqueness. So I think they would love it. I hope lots come.
Thank you, Anne. We're looking forward to seeing your work, along with Nicki Metcalf, who will show her photography at our third Art in the Shop on Sunday, February 24th, from 1 to 4 p.m., located in the bays at Village Exxon. You may see photos of Anne's work